Welcome back, everyone, to GGN. It's Monday, October 28th, 2013. This is part 2. I'm going to cover some drone news. We left off with U.S. drones striking, killing 6 civilians in Somalia. Former U.S. official is saying that, or said, for every Yemen terrorist U.S. drone kills, 40 to 60 new enemies are created. Drone strikes take out a few bad guys, to be sure, but they also kill a large number of innocent civilians, writes the deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy in Yemen from 04 to 07. Given Yemen's tribal structure, the U.S. generates roughly 40 to 60 new enemies for every year the Al-Qaeda operative is killed by drones. And many times, like when they say Al-Qaeda in Yemen, it's actually those southern secessionists. CIA consulted with Pakistani government in conducting drone strikes, says report. This is from the 24th. Pakistan's top officials have not only had knowledge of U.S. drone programs that is now basically unpopular in the country, but have been authorizing it for years, according to a report based on classified documents and internal Pakistani memos. The Washington Post published a report Wednesday describing top secret CIA file which uses maps, aerial photos taken between 2008 and 2011. So I pretty much have said this before. They're getting money. There's a lot of money in the war on terror. And, you know, they can go up here and say this because it's good for elections and stuff. Pakistani Prime Minister, he just got elected. He has to say stuff like this because it's really unpopular. Demands end to drone strikes as he meets Obama. So it makes it seem like he's doing something, but they get a lot of cash from the U.S. to carry out drone strikes. So, you know that they know. And so what I'm thinking is this could be basically because maybe he was actually wanting them to stop. And they said, oh, okay, well, we'll throw you under the bus there, buddy. Then you have confessions of a drone warrior. From the darkness of a box in Nevada desert, he watched as 3 men trucked down a dirt road in Afghanistan. The gist is basically how it is in his little cramped up room. And he says here that he blew these people apart. He says he recalls it even now, years later, burned into his memory like a photo negative. The smoke clears and there's pieces of the 2 guys around the crater. And there's this guy over here and he's missing his right leg above his knee. He's holding it and he's rolling around. The blood is squirting out of his leg and it's hitting the ground and it's hot. His blood is hot, but when it hits the ground it starts to cool off. The pool cools fast. He said it took him a long time to die. I just watched him. I watched him become the same color as the ground he was lying on. And he gives his background, which is, you know, it's like most military people. Raised by his poor single mom, public school teacher, struggled to afford tuition, went over to the recruiter's office. He got a bad feeling, bailed at the last minute, but it was too late because he signed the papers. It says, Siri, have those people killed. In 2011, Air Force psychologists completed a mental health survey of 16 combat drone operators, and 42% of the crews reported moderate to high stress, 20% reported emotional exhaustion or burnout. The study attributed their dire results in part to existential conflict. A later study found that these operators suffered from the same levels of depression, anxiety, and PTSD, alcohol abuse, suicidal ideation as traditional combat air crews. These effects appear to spike at the exact time of Brian's deployment during the surge in Iraq. Chillingly, to mitigate these effects, researchers have proposed creating a Siri-like user interface, basically a virtual co-pilot that anthropomorphizes the drone and lets crews shunt off the blame for whatever happens. Siri, have those people killed. And the Defense Department seeks to implant devices capable of stimulating depressed soldiers' brains in real time. It's cutting-edge research. They hope to use electrical brain implants to treat a variety of mental conditions. Talking about DARPA. They want to discover characteristics of distributed neural systems and attempt to develop and apply therapies that incorporate near real-time recording and analysis. It says here, it's in stimulation and next-generation devices inspired by current deep brain stimulation. Jeez. I guess it already exists. I never heard of it. It just sounds creepy, but it's used for therapy, a therapeutic tool. delivers electrical stimulation to reduce motor impairment. But DARPA believes it can also be used to treat depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, along with Tourette's, epilepsy, anxiety, and PTSD. So this is something that they would be using for that drone pilot. Along with the Avatar, young British Army recruits at higher risk of PTSD and suicide. The former soldiers criticized the Ministry of Defense recruitment practices, with Britain one of only 19 countries to allow 16-year-olds to join up. A marketing executive who worked on Army recruitment campaigns for 10 years has told The Guardian that he believes the material he created was misleading. I'm deeply uncomfortable about the way we sold the Army to young people. He claims that he expected to avoid mentioning the negatives of Army life, adding, you're never using words like kill or maim. They would put people off. They say that younger recruits who experienced war were more likely to display PTSD and similar symptoms and health problems, including anxiety, depression, harmful drinking, violence, self-harm, and suicide, are more likely to occur the younger the soldier joined. Data shows Google robot cars are smoother, safer drivers than you or I. The data gathered from Google's self-driving Prius and Lexus cars show that they're safer and smoother when driving themselves when a human takes the wheel. It's according to the Google's autonomous car project. One of the analysis showed that when the human was behind the wheel, Google's car accelerated and braked significantly more sharply than it did when piloting themselves. Another showed that the car software was much better at maintaining a safe distance from the vehicle ahead than human drivers were. I might actually agree with that. I can't stand tailgaters, but they do it. We're spending less time in near collision states. Our car is driving more smoothly and more safely than our trained professional drivers. There's actually one of the Google Maps drivers out somewhere in Indonesia or somewhere in South Asia got in an accident. It wasn't paying attention or something, but you remember this article from last October about saying, basically this professor, I'm convinced that drones can perform more ethically than human soldiers are capable of. The new line of wearable technology is letting users control drones with their fingernails and eyelashes. We see this a lot in movies. Combines conductive materials and beauty items to allow users to remotely control drones and other mechanical devices. So this is part of the transhumanism agenda here. It's actually basically a line of beauty technology, the beauty products. Metallized eyelashes, RFID nails, and conductive makeup in her work. Wireless signals are sent from the wearable attachments to the different devices. Yeah, because you want Wi-Fi frequencies even closer to you. You know, in that article we were reading about that dude Brian in the life of a drone operator, it actually says that, you know, when he's sitting in there, he starts to feel disconnected with what he's actually doing. So, you know, that's why they said it's an ethical question here. And so this is just going to make it so that he's even more connected with the computers and robots and machines and that. Some of the practical uses include using fingernails to pay for goods instead of credit cards and blinking to levitate objects. The risk of putting our knowledge in the hands of machines all can be lost. From the Atlantic, we rely on computers to fly our planes, find our cancers, design our buildings, audit our businesses. That's all well and good, but what happens when the computer fails? This is GGN. Thank you.